Welcome to Bass Case 007. I'm your host, Phil. 007 required bass lines for blues tunes. You know, I've been over the last few podcast episodes, I've been talking about blues form, and as a bass player, you got to be responsible for so many things like walking and two-feel and heads, and having solos and being able to speak over those. This episode is going to be over the required bass lines for certain blues tunes, and these are the lines that you have to play, that they go with the tune. And if you listen to the recording, you'll hear that particular bass line, and you're not going to be able to groove or walk or play roots. You've got to know the line. There was when I was first studying this music, there was this gentleman that would come into our combo class, and he was a saxophonist, and he toured around, and then when he got off the road, he would come by and listen to us, and then he would hang around class and tell us things, and he would show us some things in tunes. And one time we were working on this tune, Recorder Made by Joe Henderson. It's on the album Page One, Blue Note Records, and he was showing me the intro to it, which was this particular bass line, be-doo, bop, bop, ba-doo, ba-dee-doo, be-doo, bop, bop, ba-doo. In all my inexperience, I said, well, that's not in the fake book. And he said, young man, not everything's in the fake book. He says, you've got to listen to the recordings and learn this stuff the right way. And I'm going to take these four tunes, and these are particular bass lines that, you're not going to be able to fake this. You have got to have learned these lines so that you can play with people, so that when it gets called, this is what the drummer and this is what the horn players and this is what the pianists are expecting to hear. And there's a lot of these, like some other tunes that are not blues, like So What, Wes Montgomery's 4 on 6, and Dizzy's Night Tunisia, and others where the bass line is a particular bass line that they wrote with it, and you've got to do that, and you've got to do your homework. And I've actually compiled a list of bass lines, required bass lines for my bass players in my studio. Some are just intros, and some you got to play for the entire head or the entire tune. But these four that I'm going to track today are basically jazz tunes. And the first one is all blues from Miles Davis's album Kind of Blue. And it's easy to play. This line, it fits on the neck beautifully of both electric and double basses, and it's fun to play. It's got a couple strange things with it. The first one is that it's in G major. And when we think about a blues, like I've talked about, the most popular keys are F and B flat, and then you get the occasional one like Sandu by Clifford Brown in E flat, and then maybe one in A flat, but that's about as far as it goes. But Miles wrote this in G, and he's got this pivotal bass line that stays on the one chord, and even when the 4 chord comes up, he still stays on the 1. And then he makes the turnaround, and it comes back to the same thing again. What I like to do sometimes, and you'll hear me do this in the recording, is I'll move to the 4 chord. It's very good to do that with some of my combo players. The other thing that's a little bit significant about this tune and to watch out for is that unlike other blues, which are in driving 4/4 meter, this one's in 3. It's in 3/4, or some people like to think of it as 6/8 or triple meter. So watch out for that. You can play the line, the entire tune, or you can play the line during the melody, which is what you really need to do. And then when the soloists start, you can begin some walking and then phase that line in and out. So here's that first one, all blues. And it just hangs around that G. And that's the intro. And now here's where the melody comes in. Da da da, da. Now here's where the 4 chord is, but I'm just hanging around the 1, just like Paul Chambers did on the recording. Nice easy line. Here's the turnaround. E flat alt, back to D. And then here's the last 4. That's 4 measures. And then we're back at the top of the form. time I went to the 4-chord. It's kind of helpful, especially with you got new players new to jazz to go, so they can hear that difference in that. And here comes that turnaround. Here's a D7 alt. Just keep it simple to that E flat. I'm just playing root fifth. And then here's the last 4 of the form. Then just a little walking in 3, and this is real important. As bass players, we're used to walking in 4, and 3 will keep you on your toes because now we have this natural inclination to add that 4th beat. But here, I'm just keeping it simple, driving the line. I don't necessarily have to land on G for every downbeat. Sometimes I land on the 5th. And in the turnaround, there's that E flat. And back to that head. Just sort of a shortened version of what you'd have to play. Now you can return back to, like I said, you can turn back to line. What I like to do is that at the beginning of each soloist, I bring this part of the line back in, and then once they start cooking, I start rolling in with some quarter notes and walking. Another clue is if you hear that drummer start moving to ching, 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 ching quarters on the ride cymbal, start walking right there and fit in with them. But that's that first one, and you've got to know that one. And it's just one of those standards, whether you're playing in St. Louis or Dallas or Paris, they all know that tune, and you've got to know it too. That's your requirement as a bass player. Okay, the second one, also a blues, but more of a minor blues, is Equinox by Coltrane. It's on a compilation album of his, but if you just put in Equinox by Coltrane, like most people do, into YouTube, it'll pop right up. And it has a distinctive bass line, and it's also somewhat simple too. And it has to happen, but in this one you don't walk. And listen to the recording. The bass player that plays on that recording plays this line. And that's what the drummers and horn players and pianists expect to hear. It's in a weird key for a lot of players, C sharp minor. You know, we think of that as an out key for players. One of the Fate books puts it in C minor, and I did it like that and taught it like that for a while. And then I listened to this tune by Milt Jackson, a vibes player, and he had a minor blues titled Bags and Train, probably at least co-written by Coltrane, and it was a C sharp minor blues. And there's a nice arco solo by Paul Chambers, and he doesn't have any problems with soloing over an out key like C sharp minor because he makes it work for him. So there was a lot to learn, you know, and this was just about 10 years ago when I discovered that, hey, wait a second, you should go to the original key. So here's Equinox, and at the top I've got 4 bars of that groove, and then the head comes in after that 4 bars. So here's Equinox. Here's the head. Ba-dee-da. Ba-dee-da. You can hear Coltrane playing that line. Simple line. But that rhythm, you want to make sure it lines up with the kick drum of the drummer too, and he'll be playing that if he knows the tune. So he's responsible for something too. Going to the 4 chord, just a typical blues. Back to the 1 chord. Here's that A7 to A flat 7. Back to the 1 chord. There it is, and you keep with that line throughout the whole thing, and you'll be solid. Nobody will give you the fish eye if you step away. You know, that's the line you have to learn. There were simple lines too. So the next one, from Miles' album, Miles Smiles. Bass line's written by Ron Carter. I think Wayne Shorter wrote the head, though. It's Footprints. It's also similar in some ways to All Blues in that you've got this distinctive bass pattern. And then you can move into some walking. But here's the other reality check. It's in 6/4, so you've got, or you can think about it as being in 3/4, but you can walk, but be careful. Again, we're so used to walking in 4/4 that, you can trip over yourself with this. But that distinctive line's got to at least be when the head's being played on the intro or at the top, and then that in the out part of the tune too. So here's Footprints. Now I'm going to move to the 4 chord. And I'm still keeping C in the bass, though. It's sort of an inverted chord. Now here's the turnaround. F sharp, B7, E minor, A7, and then back to the 1 chord. Now that's one way you can play the turnaround. Let's go through the form again. Just hanging around the 1 chord. Now we go to the 4 chord. I've inverted 4 chord, with the C in the bass. Now here's the turnaround. I'm going to do a tritone sub. F sharp, F, E, back to A, and then back to that C. Fits beautifully on the bass, upright or electric. And this one too, you can start walking on the solos. And again, these lines are not complicated. They used to blow my mind when I was a kid because I thought this has got to be, it's Miles Davis and Ron Carter's playing, and then I'd figure out the line, or one of my teachers would show me, and I thought it could not possibly be this simple and fit on the bass. But it is. That's the appeal of things that sound really good. Sometimes they're just very simple. Okay, this last tune, and I'm likely going to hear about this, is not a true blues tune, but to me it kind of acts like one to my ears. It's Herbie Hancock's Cantaloupe Island. Now it's a typical 16-bar form, and the simplicity of it can be somewhat tempting that you fall back and not think. Be careful, because the last 4 bars are the same as the first 4 bars. It's like when we're dealing with AABA form, you come to the last day, and then if you're not keeping an eye on things, suddenly you play one of the A's at the top and you feel like you've been playing A for a while, so you jump to the bridge. So be careful with this tune. And watch out for if you're using this and practicing with the YouTube backing tracks, I haven't found one yet that does it right as far as the form. They do it in different ways. This is a grooving tune about, I think it was in 93 or 94, a hip-hop group by the name of Us Three used it as a sample for one of their tunes. It became a big hit, and it brought, Herbie some acclaim, and people started, including myself, started looking around going, what was that album from? And here's the groove that goes with it. So you'll have 4 bars at the top, like we've done all of these, and then the top of the tune starts up, and it's in F minor, and it fits on the bass easily. And then I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to show you a couple of tags of how to get out of this tune. There's a piano part which guitarists can play, and they've got to be on top of that too. This is not really one of these tunes you can really start grooving to if you haven't heard it before. You really got to learn the line. So here's just the Cantaloupe Island form a couple times for bass. Pretty simple. 5, 7, 5, 7, 1. Goes to D flat, 6 chord. And then it pedals D minor right here. This is where you've got to be on top of it. You've got to play this line. As simple as it seems, you've got to play it like that. Here's the last 4. Don't trip over this, because you got to go back to the top with the same groove in F minor. Here's the top of the form. 6th chord, D flat 7, D minor, just pumping that D string. And listen to what I do here. I grab the low E to get to that F. As simple as it is, it's super effective. One more time to the 6th chord. And this is all triadic. Back to that D minor. And on beat 4 of this last measure, I grab that low E. As simple as it is, it's super effective. Okay. Now here's tag 1. This is what I do with my combo players to get out of the tune. And we'll play through the head, take solos, and we play through the head again. And the second time, we just hang out on D minor. And then we pedal to that D minor, and then we stay on it and either fade out or have a hard stop on it. So here's just tag 1 without the form, just the D minor by itself. Playing the form. Just hanging around D minor and getting softer. And you can drop it like that too, either a hard stop or just let it ring. And like I said, it's a good way to get out of this tune because this tune is sort of a circular form and it's hard to find a turn back because the first bar and the last bar is F minor, so there's not a real turnaround that makes you feel harmonically like you're coming to a cadence point. So landing on that D, which is, for you theory folks, the relative minor F major, even though we're playing an F minor. Okay, here's tag number 2. Now, this is something I do too. My more advanced students will do this. We hang around the D, but I play the horn part on the bass, which is something that we can do. So here's the same thing. I'll play the form down, and then when I get to that third line, I'll double the horn part on bass, and you can do this too. Here's tag 2. That sustain or have a hard stop on it and you'll be solid. And knowing these tunes will keep you busy. If you don't know them, they'll keep you busy. You should know them. Like I said, they're not typically written in the fake books or in the real books as they call them. Learn them off the recordings. Or check out my YouTube channel where I've got them demonstrated and you see my hand playing these. Now there's a lot of these in all genres of music. Thinking about Stevie Ray Vaughan, he's got this chart, Cold Shot, do 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 dee do ba do, and the bass player Tommy Shannon doubles Stevie's line on bass guitar. You've got to know that one. Another one is Pride and Joy. You've got to know it's a blues, but you've got to know that bass line. Nirvana, Come As You Are, right? From Smells Like Teen Spirit from, 30 years ago. You've got to know that bass line. Every style of music has those, and you can't fake them, and you've got to know them, and you've got to have them in your pocket every time. And next time I'll be going through some intros that you need to know. And until next time, this is Bass Case and your host, Phil.